Welcome to Art 116, Basic Design. We're going to jump right into this thing. I wanted to do a graphic design project, and so today I'm going to just model that behavior. I'm going to go out as if I was the student trying to figure out this project. I want to go out and do a Google image search about stuff that I'm interested in talking about, and I'm going to come up with um, some phrases or some quotes or something like that, and then try to marry these things together, trying to put image and text together into a graphic design and try to make it not a meme, but something, different than a meme. And it can be anything. It can be entertaining, but I don't want it to be in the meme format. It can be profound or provocative. And then once we've got it all put together, we have to then do a gut check and see whether it is too provocative to be so offensive that it's not effective as a design or not. And so we're going to play with all of that stuff because as designers, just like you find when you are in a college writing class, that you can write and say quite provocative things. And most of us as young writers are loose cannons. And so some of the stuff that comes out of our mouth, some of the stuff that comes out of our pen needs some editing and some cleaning up and that kind of stuff. It's the same thing for a graphic designer. Sometimes you can come up with things that seem like a really good idea to you at the time because they are provocative and it's topical and all of that kind of stuff. But we do have to also take a breath before you hit the send button and see if it's something that you really want to have out there as a design that has your name on it. So having said all that, I wanted to do a screen share and go out on the internet and go look for stuff. Oh gosh. Okay, well, let me see if, God, I hope I've got that on. So I'm going to share this screen and I got to move this thing out of the way because that's up there. So oh crap. Okay. I'm going to try something else. Going to stop sharing this screen. I'm going to share this other screen because I've got lots of screens. Okay. So I was, let's start up here and let's turn on this thing. Okay, so what is this? This is a PowerPoint presentation. So I was trying to collect some of my ideas together into a PowerPoint and I never got it finished because I've always been trying to figure out why us, as mostly white people, have such a bug up our ass about the Martin Luther King holiday. What is it that makes it so difficult for us to honor Dr. King or the civil rights movement or any of the other stuff that has come down the road, in terms of social justice issues and stuff like that? So this is my basic, question. And then yesterday, or not yesterday, Wednesday. In fact, right after this class, a thing happened in Washington, D.C., at our nation's capital, at the Capitol building, which has kind of totally derailed the Martin Luther King theme for me just a little bit. Donald Trump spoke to a large group of protesters and demonstrators who came to the National Mall, organized by people who are interested in the stuff that President Trump is interested in. And they were counting the ballots. They were at the Capitol building in the Senate. Actually, it was a joint session of the House and Senate on Wednesday. We're doing their constitutional duty and looking at the electoral college results and ratifying and accepting the electoral college results on the last presidential election. And so at the same time that was going on, this rally was happening on the other end of the National Mall. And then Donald Trump spoke to the supporters and said, we should walk up to the other end of that thing and let them know how we feel about this. And of course, lots of people had been enraged about these kinds of things through the repeated lies, basically, about how the election came out. and this idea that somewhere, somehow, that the votes weren't counted correctly or something like that. Although every state is in charge of its own elections, and every state validated its own election results, and then all of those election results were already challenged in court by Rudy Giuliani and a whole bunch of Trump supporters and attorneys, and all of those lawsuits were thrown out of court because they didn't have any merit or any evidence to go with them. So we get to this day, and then this happened. Now I've got, I don't know, a 4 or 5 minute report here on what happened during that day. And it's an audio file from Morning Edition. And I'm not even going to play it for you because we got to go to the next thing already. So this morning on Morning Edition, again, lots of coverage on the radio, multiple stories on the response to Trump's insurrection at the US Capitol. And I'm going to go to timestamp 7 minutes in this particular thing, because this gets back to what we're dealing with here in terms of Black Lives Matter, in terms of social justice, in terms of the Martin Luther King holiday. And so this down here is what I'm interested in, compare and contrasting. We do this a lot in college writing classes and stuff. You have to write an essay that compares and contrasts two things. Okay, so I'd like you to compare and contrast the way that conservative white protesters are handled, at this insurrection at the nation's capital versus the way Black Lives Matter protesters or even Antifa protesters are handled at the summer protests that happened all over the country in a lot of cities across the country, because that they were protesting the George Floyd killing that happened originally in Minneapolis. Or you could just compare directly to the George Floyd killing, where the Minneapolis police officer had his knee on the neck of George Floyd and on his back, and pretty much just choked the life out of him for about 9 minutes while George Floyd was laying in the street. So, how do we deal with different kinds of people in this society? Do some people have privilege and other people don't? Or is it just that when you have 1,000 people attacking the Capitol building, the nation's capital, you can't shoot them all, and so you kind of just let them through? Or what's the deal? What's appropriate response? So anyway, I'm going to go to this thing, and then I'm going to play it, if it will play for me.
Many of these factions have been talking about violent uprisings for years.
And I'm going to push this all the way to 7 minutes, right about here, because this is where they start talking about this, I think, right at about the 7-minute mark.
With these folks this week. That's right. That's been a key criticism. Ashley Howard teaches history and African American studies at the University of Iowa. Talked to her yesterday, and she says this is not an aberration. It fits into a pattern of responses to white mob violence.
The terror that we see here and the lack of response or equivalent response, once again, really highlight that crisis just brings out things we already know about this country. It amplifies the trends and the themes and the narratives of American history.
So while we are seeing arrests and condemnation, critical questions remain really about whether the longtime minimizing of the threat from the extreme right paved a way for the shocking security lapse we saw this week.
NPR's Hannah Lamb. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
Oops. I teed that up right in about the middle of the thing instead of at the beginning of the thing. Let me try that one more time. Sorry about that. I'll get this right. I'm going to bring it back to timestamp 6 minutes and see if I can catch more of that thing. And then I'll stop it at 7 minutes when we get to what we've just heard already. So I'm going to pull this back to about 6-ish minutes. And then I'm not exactly sure where we are, so just bear with us until they start talking about this stuff.
Yeah, complete lack of remorse.
And finally, there's the group Squire usually studies. These are the hardcore white supremacists. She says they're thinking long-term about how to capitalize on the incident for recruiting and expansion. And again, many of these factions have been talking about violent uprisings.
You know what? I liked this one too. So I'm going to go back to 4 minutes and we're going to listen to this for the next 2 minutes. And then I'm sorry, that'll be the end of it. And we'll get back to what I want to do today.
Again, they portray themselves as patriots, but reactions did split somewhat after the president's condemnation video, with some feeling that the president had betrayed them. I want to play you a little bit of what Megan Squire has to say on this. She's a professor at Elon University in North Carolina who monitors far-right networks. She says the reactions to the storming of the Capitol tend to fall into three categories. So first, there are the sympathizers.
They probably weren't there. They're all over social media and on regular media. These are the ones who are, blaming Antifa. They're making up stuff about that this was a false flag.
And then there are the ones who were thrilled to be there, she says, who felt like they're making a stand.
They are taking, bounty shots, trophy picks, making memes, just talking it up. Yeah, complete lack of remorse.
And finally, there's the group Squire usually studies. These are the hardcore white supremacists. She says they're thinking long term about how to capitalize on the incident for recruiting and expansion. And again, many of these factions have been talking about violent uprisings for years.
I watched some of the videos that Steve mentioned where people were outside like, yeah, I stormed in, I was tear gassed. Many people question why those folks were out there making videos and not being arrested. Are the authorities taking this seriously?
If we think back for a moment to 2017, the deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, that was this watershed moment for public awareness of the violent far right. And, U.S. authorities consider this the deadliest and most active domestic terrorism threat. But fast forward nearly 4 years, and some of the same white supremacist figures from Charlottesville were at the Capitol Wednesday, part of another violent mob. And this time, the hardened extremists are alongside suburban families, conservative voters who've been radicalized by disinformation and conspiracy. So far, police have made more than 90 arrests. Federal authorities have charged at least 50 people, with more expected as they crowdsource suspects from photos and videos. So over the years, we have seen some changes in how federal authorities prioritize and investigate these crimes, but many extremism analysts I talked to say there's still a long way to go. The Trump administration has routinely played down the right-wing threat and said the real danger was activist movements like Antifa and Black Lives Matter.
And speaking of which, this summer, racial justice protesters were tear gassed, arrested, and tackled. That just is not what we saw with these folks this week.
That's right. That's been a key criticism. Ashley Howard teaches history and African American studies at the University of Iowa. Talked to her yesterday, and she says this is not an aberration. It fits into a pattern of responses to what.
Okay, that's enough. That's getting back into what we already heard. So the discussion, the coverage on the news, and the analysis on the news is, what is it about these crowds of white people and Trump supporters, and the rage that gets built up in folks. And we can go back to the last 4 years of the Trump administration and the use of social media like Twitter and everything else, Instagram, whatnot, and the followers who really love the clickbait that they get from the president and other folks. And we can go back even farther. We can go back 30 years in terms of talk radio, AM talk radio, because rage seems to be something that people get addicted to. And it sells a lot of products for advertisers, so it makes for a really easy kind of programming to put on the radio, and that's kind of an interesting thing. So anyway, I've got a collection of some of the images from the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol that happened 2 days ago. Here's one. People kind of surging forward. There's some police officers and whatnot, but people get around them or overwhelm them pretty easily and get into the U.S. Capitol building. Here's another one. Lots of protesters up on the stairs and the ramparts and everything, by the Capitol building, and then getting into and breaking windows and stuff and that kind of stuff. Lots of Trump flags being flown by all the protesters, a lot of American flags being waved, and the occasional Confederate flag too. So you got your MAGA hats and your Confederate flags and your Trump flags. We got a lot of people who like the symbolism of flags and flag waving. And in fact, they even start to equate the American flag with the Confederate flag and the Trump flag and the MAGA hat. And so there's lots of conflation of symbolism. There's lots of confusion of symbolism. among all of these folks. And of course, they're enraged. And so they're like a lynch mob. They're out of control, and they're filled with rage, and they're going to do something. Next slide. This was one of my favorite views of all of this, because all of these guys went up on the steps of the Capitol. And so you have our nation's capital in the background with all of the MAGA flags and the Trump flags and all kinds of American flags and all this kind of stuff. And they're expressing their rage. Okay. So this would be the kind of a thing that I think is one of the most interesting compositions as an image that I might want to work with in terms of graphic design for myself. So I might play with that one. In fact, I'm going to play with that one. Can I click on this? Can I? What can I do here? I want to click on this screen. I want to copy this. Can I copy this? I'm going to try to copy this. Let's see. Okay, what happens if I escape? Can I do an escape maneuver? Okay, now can I right click on this? I want to copy this. Okay, there's the copy thing. I'm going to try Control Copy to copy that. And then I'm going to go to are you guys still there? Yeah, you're still here. Okay, so I'm screen sharing, and I'm going to go to another screen. I'm going to go to my basic Word document here. So here we are in Microsoft Word. Yay. I have to take you guys and move you guys down to the bottom so that I got place to work here. So I'm going to click on my blank document, my blank Microsoft Word document, and I'm going to go Control V, which is paste, and I'm going to paste this in here. Hey, look at that. It pasted in there, and I'm going to click on this. So this is an image. And in Microsoft Word, when you click on an image, you get this shape on the outside. You get an outline and you get all this stuff. And so we can play with this as an image and a shape. First thing I want to do, I'm actually going to right click on this to get this drop-down menu that's about how to format anything in a Microsoft Word document. I need to format this to make sure that it is something that's going to work and play well with my text boxes. So I'm going to come down here to wrap text, and then what pops out from the side from wrap text is all of these other kind of things. And I want tight. I want to highlight the word tight on my formatting for wrap text. That applies a tight format of wrap text onto this thing. And that's going to allow me to be able to click on this and move it anywhere I want to around inside my document. And then when I move it someplace, it'll stay there. It won't snap back to its original position. I will be able to resize this by grabbing onto a corner of it and pulling it larger or smaller. And wherever I let go of it, it won't snap back to its original thing. Plus, it will work and play well with the text boxes that I want to add. So, okay, so here's my image. Let's play with some text boxes now. So I'm going to go up here to Insert. Up here on the top it's the second one next to the Home tab. I'm going to hit the Insert button. Then I'm going to go over here to Text Box, and I'm going to click on Text Box, and I'm going to drop all the way down here to Draw Text Box. So now I have a little drawing tool in my hand, and I can actually click and drag this drawing tool right there, and that gives me a text box that I can play with. Let's see. I've been coming up with all kinds of words and ideas and stuff like that. And I was going to try to figure out what I could do here that was like a 2 text box kind of a thing. I was thinking about white privilege as a possible thing. I made a whole long list. I've been brainstorming. American carnage is one of President Trump's quotes from his inaugural address 4 years ago. He was talking about American carnage, and he was listing all of the horrible stuff that was going on in the country, according to him at the time. And so I thought I might take a Donald Trump quote and put it onto this Donald Trump inspired activity just to see how that would work. So let's try American carnage, shall we? In fact, I'm going to break it into 2 words. I'm going to go AMERICAN over here, American, And I'm going to highlight this. And then I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I'm going to play with the font sizes and the fonts. So let's play with things. Calibri is my default font here. So I definitely want to have a different font than Calibri. It's a very, it's a modern font. It doesn't have much that goes with it in terms of content that it carries with it. I'm going to go a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go to the font size thing, and I'm going to scroll down here to, I don't know, maybe 40, maybe 72, something like that. 48 we'll try. Okay. So American is the word that I'm playing with, but then I need a interesting font that goes along with this kind of stuff. So I'm going to click on the arrow, which gives me the drop down menu, which gives me all of the millions of fonts. Actually, there's only about 100 or 150 in most of these things. Now, the thing is, let's move this text box over just a little bit so we can see it while we are playing with. I'm going to highlight the word American. I'm going to drop down these fonts. So every time you land on a font, you can see what that font looks like when the word is highlighted in the text box. So I can kind of go down here and just try on different fonts, and some of them, the spacing and the squishiness of the letters makes the words smaller, or it makes it, it has, a completely different feeling. Bauhaus 93 is kind of a weird decorative font. I'm not going to use that one. Baskerville Old Face. This is kind of an interesting font. This really does kind of feel like America, newspapers and publishing and that kind of stuff. So I might think about that. I'm going to click on that one while I'm thinking about other ones. Casteller, Copper Black, Copper Plate. I don't know. Engravers. You have to, as a graphic designer, go through all of these fonts and try them out and see what you like. Because some fonts will work for the kind of content and meaning that you're trying to put into the word, and many won't. Oh, look at that. I just hit on Imprint MT Shadow. I'm going to click on that one. We're going to play with that maybe as a thing. So here's my text box that I can move all around here. And what I'm going to do to this text box is right click on it. So, or no, I'm not. I'm going to click on the edge of the text box right here. And then I'm going to go to, let's see. I want to play with the outside edges of my text box as an object. Is that going to let me do that? No. Okay. What I'm looking for, home. I'm looking for the things that will let me play with the text box in terms of, I want to make it translucent. I want to get rid of the outside contour line on the text box. And so I'm looking for, oh, my drawing tools. Here they are right here, drawing tools. So I've got shape fill and I've got shape outline here. If I go to shape fill and click on it, I've got all of these colors that I could put into the middle of my text box, but I don't want any fill at all. I want my text box to be transparent. So I'm going to click no fill, and then I'm going to come up here to shape outline. And again, I've got all of these different colors that I could use to put on my outline, but I don't want an outline. I want an invisible text box, shape, and outline. So I'm going to hit no outline. And so now when I click off of the text box, the word American floats right in the middle of the image, and I can put it anywhere I want to. I'm really interested in these negative spaces that are on either side of the Capitol dome, because these lovely little spaces create lovely little places where I can put words. So there's that one. Now I'm going to, because I did so much work on this text box, I'm going to click on this text box and see if I can copy it. So I'm going to go Control C to copy something. And then I'm going to click over here someplace, and I'm going to go Control V to paste something. And so I got a second text box. I got a copy of that text box that I can slide all over the place over here. And so I'm going to just kind of backspace on this word or highlight the word, either one. but I'm going to go back to my quote, which was American Carnage. And I'm going to replace the word American with carnage there. So now I've got two invisible text boxes. And all you do as a designer, as a graphic designer, is play with the relative spacing of things. Now you nudge stuff. You take some of your design cues from some of the lines that are in the composition, and you want to see, you know, do I want the edge of the N to overlap the dome of the capital, or do I want it off of there? So I can slide it in there and I can see if I like that in there, or I can slide it back off and see if I'd rather like it like maybe tucked in right here, so that the point of the N kind of comes in to these two little places where this curve and this curve meet right here. And, you know, I don't even care if the A kind of goes off the edge of this thing, because we can think outside the box, and you can actually place some of your words so that they go, you know, not only inside the image that you're working with, but they can trail off outside of the image too. So anyway, and I want to line these up. I'm going to click on this one and see if I wish that I had some lines, snap lines that I could put on here so that I could see this. You know, I could draw a line. I think I may just draw a line. I'm going to go up here to insert. I'm going to draw a line really quick. Lines, shapes, come on, really? Don't I have any just lines that I can draw? I just want to draw a line. Here's a line. I can just draw a line. I can draw a line across here, and then I'm going to get rid of that line later on. So that's a horizontal line, and that gives me something to line things up on, so I can, you know, float these things up and down and that kind of thing. When I'm satisfied with how my alignments are, I can click on the line that I drew in there temporarily, and I can click delete, and I can get rid of that again. Okay, so that might be like one graphic design that I'm playing with. I'm not even satisfied with it yet, but you know, it's a beginning, it's a start. So what I want to do, to tell you guys again what I've been up to here. Wait a minute, I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to stop share for just a second. I'm going to come back here. Okay, so I heard you guys. My microphone isn't working, but I've been showing the wrong screen. Uh-oh, shoot. How can I be showing the wrong screen? Okay, chat. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't see what you're doing. My microphone isn't working, but you've been showing the wrong screen. And it's 9:30. Crap. Okay. Tell me, you guys, what screen have you been seeing? Have you been seeing just the camera on me? What have you guys been seeing? It was on PowerPoint the whole time. Okay, thank you. All right, let me go back to screen share. Shit. Okay, I'm really sorry, because once I get in there, screen share, PowerPoint. Okay, I wanted to share. Where is my, where's my Word document? Here's my Word document. Okay, okay. Can you guys see that? Go ahead and unmute your microphone and let me know, please, if you can see that. Okay, there's
I can see it.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, let me go back. Okay, so I'm sorry, you guys couldn't see anything that I was doing. So I'm going to pull these things apart. And in fact, let's see, if I push you guys over here and I zoom out on my page so that you can see like the whole desktop that I can work on, I can put this, where can I put this so that you can see stuff? I'm going to put this text box down here. I can even resize this text box so that it just says, so that the text box is just big enough for the images that I'm working with. So originally I brought in this image and I copied it from the internet, and today I copied it from my PowerPoint presentation. I highlighted it, I copied it, and I imported it into this document, and I pasted it into the document. So this is the image. It's a JPEG, it's an image, and it's in the document. I right-click on the image to give us this a bunch of editing options for things that you can import into a document. And I came down here to wrap text. And when I just, highlight the idea of wrap text, then I get this secondary set of things. And I went to tight because tight is the format that I want to do in wrap text. And so when I highlight, tight, this has now been formatted in a tight format. And that allows you to take other things and put them right up on top of it or right up against it so that you have ways of doing this. And if you don't do that, your text boxes and your picture, your image, tend to be like magnets that both have north poles on them, and they tend to repel each other, and they tend to bounce away from each other. The only way, oops, I lost part of my word here. The only way to get this so that it doesn't bounce off of the image or have the image bouncing around is to make sure that everything, and let me see if I can, I'm going to highlight that, and then I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go to wrap text, and I'm also going to make sure that this is formatted as a tight formatting thing. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Find the edge of this, right click on it, hit wrap text, and format it for tight. So now all of my elements are formatted for tight tight format. And so I can do all of that. I was really interested in these negative spaces in the composition. A lot of the rest of the composition is really busy. There's lots of contrasty stuff going on, and it's really hard to take a text box and put a piece of text over the top of something because it makes it very illegible, hard to see, hard to read. So I'm looking for a little bit more, perhaps, single color, either high key or low key, single color thing in the image that I might be able to play with. And so anyway, I'm going to zoom in now so we can just look at that part of the composition right about there. And I've got my document recovery pane over here that I want to close so that I can see this more betterly. And where am I going to put you guys? I have to put you guys over here someplace. So you guys get to sit over there for a while. Okay. So I've got this pretty big on my, so that I can look at this, I can see with this, and I can really play with this now. I can click on the image and I can make the image smaller, and then I can pull it up in here and I can see what happens, when I change sizes between the image and the text. Because do we want the text small enough so that it fits inside of these negative spaces on each shoulder? Or do we want the text to be big enough so that it can hold its own? And, this is what the graphic designer plays with, is that kind of stuff. When I talked about drawing a line, I went up here to the Insert tab, and then I went over here to Shapes, and I dropped that down, and I found just a little line, just a cute little happy little line over here. So I can draw a line underneath the word American, and I can pull it all the way over here, and I think for the most part it is a horizontal and level line, and that'll allow me to set the word carnage right down on that line. I'm trying to get American and carnage to be horizontal with each other and level, because that's important. Then I can click on this again, and then I can hit the delete key and just delete it, and it went away. So when I'm trying to find, stop that. Okay, now I've somehow gotten out of my text here. Okay. Now everything is highlighting on one click, which I'm not quite understanding, because I'd like it to maybe just go away again. Okay, there we go. So I want to be able to put text boxes in here so that I can use text. I want to be able to highlight the text and then go up to the Home tab to go up to the text, both the list of different kinds of, I better do it over here so you can see what I'm up to. I'm going to do it with carnage, the word carnage. I can then I can try all the different kinds of possible fonts, and I can apply those fonts. I'm going to try Arial Black. It's a really big, fat, beautiful thing, and it's way too big for this, but I just wanted to put it on there just to show you what happens when you use a great, big, fat thing. In fact, sometimes really good graphic designers can even use two completely different kinds of font if they're really trying to make a statement. So this font over here, which was Imprint MT, it highlights up when this is highlighted to tell you what font it is. That font really feels American. It really feels like it's carved in stone, like it's actually carved on the facade of the Capitol building. That feels like something that feels American and architectural and traditional and all of that. And then the word carnage, that's interesting because that's kind of like a horror story or something. I wonder what happens if I go down to here to a horror-oriented font. Is there something down here that Chiller is like a horror font that you might use in a movie poster for a horror movie or something like that. So I'm just going to click on Chiller, and then I might click on the word and see what happens if I make it a little bit bigger. Like it's in 48-point type right now. So what happens if I go up to 72-point type? 72-point type for Chiller is about the same size as this. What was this again? This was Imprint MT in 48-point type. Different fonts have different basic font sizes, and so you have to kind of play around with the varying sizes of them. So I'm playing around with this font and that font to see how they kind of look together. I don't think this is a very successful thing, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Chiller, and I'm going to go back to my recently used fonts are right up here at the top, including Imprint MT Shadow. So I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to go back to the 48-point size. And so now I've got my two fonts that are the same size again. And I'm going to just kind of drop that into where it looks like it's somewhat in alignment. But anyway, so to sum this up, because you guys have been doing this really, really patiently for all of this time. This is about what I'm talking about with this first assignment. I want you to go out on the internet, do a Google image search, and find an image that deals with something about social justice, the civil rights movement, contemporary civil rights, or what happened this week, an insurrection at the nation's capital, because I think that it's part of all of this. And then you got to come up with some kind of text for it. I could have just as easily have come up with another piece of text from Martin Luther King, like the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. I could have used that and I could have stuck it down here at the bottom of this or something like this. But the phrase American carnage was something that Trump used in his inaugural address. And so I thought that, what goes around comes around. And I thought that maybe 4 years later, after his inaugural address, we'll come back here and use his own words to hopefully condemn the idea that he fomented this insurrection at the nation's capital. So this may or may not be a successful graphic design. That's the kind of thing you have to put this stuff all together, and then you have to step back and take a deep breath, and with clear eyes and another cup of coffee, assess this thing and figure out, does this really work? Is this really what I want to say? Is this communicating clearly and not confusing any issues or anything that I want to say? That's the role of the graphic designer, to try to distill down the essential meanings of words and the essential meaning of an image and try to put them together so that they are stronger than either the words themselves or the image itself, trying to put things together so that they communicate super strongly and profoundly. And I know that's really putting a big, heavy burden on you guys because this is your first graphic design idea ever. But that's what we're going to play with. And over the next couple of days, I'm going to do this again and again for the class as a demonstration. I think on Monday, we're going to do a game where you guys are going to choose what you want me to work with. And you will shout out ideas, and I'll go out and find those images on the internet and bring them into a Word document. And then you're going to shout out ideas for text, and I will create the text and then try to put the text and image together. I'm going to stop the screen share for now. I'm coming back to you guys. They can see it. Yay. And I can see you. And look at us. It's just still only the three of you and me. This is too bad. I hope that you got something out of this today. I know that this was kind of rocky, and I'm really sorry that you couldn't see the images early. So hopefully we got back on track and you're able to see this kind of stuff. This is what I want to do with this project. Graphic design is the bringing together of text and image. I'm going to talk a little bit, I guess, about the history of fonts and typefaces and text as a graphic designer from publication design standpoint on Monday. And then we're going to play our game. We're going to try to play, James will throw together a graphic design on the spot, just like I did today. And, then you guys can play with it, and you can tell me, is this working? Is this what you wanted? Is this, what we want? But to come up with the words and then apply the correct font and size to them and get them to fit and be legible and to work with the image is the whole game that we play as graphic designers. Do you guys have any questions for me or any comments after all of this noise that I just did to you? I know this is like drinking from the fire hose every time I do a presentation, and I'm sorry, because sometimes you have to take a breath and you have to get a towel and wipe off all the extra water that came out of the fire hose before you can ask a cogent question or make a comment. But do you guys have any questions for me? I'm happy to entertain them. Please go ahead and unmute your mic and ask away. I'm happy to talk about this at all. And that you can even say things that you're afraid to say to me, like, Mr. Fritz, I don't think this is appropriate for this class. This is being political, and this makes me uncomfortable, and I don't like it that we're talking about this. And if you feel that way, I need to hear that, because I will honor your feelings. I will back off from this content. I will go someplace else and deal with some other issues of civil rights or social justice. I have no idea who you guys are and whether you are conservatives and Trump supporters, and that you feel like this president has been under siege forever, and poor Donald Trump and that kind of stuff. I can appreciate that. But you might not feel that way. And so I took a chance today and tried this to see how it was going to work. I'll do something, about civil rights or social justice or Martin Luther King for you on Monday, if you'd like. Please don't hesitate to email me if you don't want to say it out loud, or if you don't want to say it in the chat. You can also give me a private message in the chat that nobody else can see, and then I get the message without you having to take a chance. So I'm happy to have these conversations and talk about what are the boundaries, what are the borders that we should be operating in terms of what are valid things that we can talk about and criticize and make graphic design out of, because graphic design, as you can see, is powerful, and it really can make profound, powerful statements when we bring the elements of design together and use them to create a marriage between text and image. Oh, that was a nice place to end today. So I'm going to end it there. There's no questions. There's no comments. And so I'm going to end it there for today. I'm going to post this video at the website so that you guys can find it again if you want to skip through the boring parts and just get to the good stuff and see exactly what I was doing there. And I'm going to say goodbye for now. I would like you guys to start on this project, collect up some images from the internet, collect up some phrases or quotes from anybody, Donald Trump, the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr., and we're going to start putting those things together this weekend and next week. I'm going to say goodbye for now, and thank you very much for being here. We'll see you again on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Goodbye for now.